You were alive for your first birthday, screaming into cake, touching faces, learning gravity, and your brain kept almost none of it. By adulthood, most of your memories before age 3 are just gone. The answer is stranger than babies forget. Your brain was not a broken camera. It was building the camera while the movie was already playing. And one number matters here, about 3.5. Remember that age, because it comes back like a ghost. You might think this is just normal forgetting. You forgot breakfast from last Tuesday. So maybe your baby years faded the same way. But wait, that explanation breaks almost immediately, because babies can remember things. A newborn can recognize your mother's voice. A few-month-old can learn that kicking moves immobile. A toddler can remember where a toy was hidden. So the problem is not that baby brains record nothing. The problem is that you cannot bring those recordings with you. That is a much creepier question. Why can a baby remember today, but you cannot remember being that baby? The obvious answer is language. You could not talk yet, so maybe you could not label the world. No words, no story, no memory. It sounds neat. It is also only partly true. Here's the problem with that. You can remember things without words. You can remember a smell instantly. You can remember how fear feels in your stomach. You can remember a song before you know its title. Your brain stores more than captions. It stores maps, emotions, movements, and patterns. Language helps memory become a story. But your missing baby years are not just unlabeled files. They are files saved in a format your adult brain struggles to open, like finding an old videotape in a house with no player. And that old tape problem starts inside a seahorse-shaped structure in your brain, the hippocampus. You use it to bind a memory together, the room, the face, the smell, the feeling, the time it happened. Without that binding, life becomes scattered receipts. You get pieces but no scene. In babies, the hippocampus is still maturing. It is not useless, but it is not yet great at making long-lasting adult-style episodes. That is layer 1. Your early brain could save moments, but not always stitch them into durable stories. But if that were the whole answer, the mystery would end here. It does not, because toddlers do form memories. Ask a 3-year-old about a trip last month. You might get real details. Ask the same child years later. The memory may vanish. So something is happening after the memory is made. Wait, it gets weirder. Your brain is not a hard drive. It is more like a living city. Roads are constantly dug up. Buildings get replaced. New routes appear overnight. In early childhood, that city is under insane construction. Synapses grow wildly. Connections get pruned. And the hippocampus keeps adding new neurons at a high rate. Scientists still argue about the exact role of this. But animal studies suggest heavy new neuron growth can disrupt older hippocampal memories. Imagine writing a diary on wet cement. Then the city keeps pouring new cement over it. The words were real, they just did not survive the renovation. This is layer 2. Your baby memories may have been buried by the same growth that made you smarter. Your brain did not erase them out of cruelty. It remodeled the room until the door no longer matched. And there is another door. You. Not your body, not your name, the you who says, "That happened to me." That self is not born fully assembled. A baby has sensations, hunger, warmth, pain, a face looming close. But an autobiographical memory needs a narrator. It needs a little character in the scene. It needs before, after, and me. That takes time. Around the 2nd year, children start recognizing themselves in mirrors. Around the 3rd year, their personal stories become richer. And by around 3.5, the first memories many adults can later report begin to appear. There's the ghost number again. 3.5 is not a magic switch. Some remember earlier flashes. Some remember nothing until 5 or 6. Culture, family storytelling, trauma, and language all shift the line. But the pattern is real. Your earliest permanent memories tend to appear when your brain can build scenes, use words, and place a self inside time. So here's the full answer. You cannot remember being a baby because your first years were recorded by a brain that was still changing its hardware, its filing system, and its main character. The hippocampus was still learning to bind scenes. Rapid brain remodeling made early traces unstable. Language had not yet turned moments into shareable stories. And your sense of me was still coming online. Your baby life was not empty. It was just stored by a version of you that no longer exists. That sounds sad, but here's the part nobody talks about. Not remembering does not mean not being shaped. Your first years can still leave fingerprints without leaving movies. This is the difference between explicit memory and implicit memory. Explicit memory is the scene you can describe. Implicit memory is the body learning the weather. A baby who is comforted learns a pattern. Cry, and warmth comes. A baby who is ignored may learn a different one. Need, and nothing comes. You may not remember the crib, but your nervous system may remember what the world felt like. Safe, loud, cold, predictable, gone. This does not mean every adult problem is secretly a baby memory. Brains are not that simple. But early experience can influence stress systems, attachment, and emotion regulation. You do not need a photograph to be changed by a fire. And this is where the question gets personal. You treat memory like proof. If you remember it, it mattered. If you do not, maybe it did not. But your brain disagrees. Some of the most important learning happens before you can tell anyone about it. You learn faces before names. You learn comfort before explanations. You learned danger before reasons. You learned your body had edges. You learned falling hurts. You learned voices could mean safety. Then, later, your adult mind arrived and found the house already furnished. That is why baby photos feel so strange. You are looking at yourself as a stranger. Everyone says, that was you. But there is no inner click, no camera angle from behind those eyes, just a tiny face wearing your future. And sometimes your family tells you a story from then. You remember it after hearing it enough, but that can be borrowed memory. A family legend wearing your name. Scientists have found that early memories can shift as children age. Some reported memories disappear, others move later in time. Your mind is not opening an archive. It is rebuilding a scene from whatever pieces survived. Even adult memory works this way. Every time you recall something, the memory can become flexible again. Then your brain saves it back slightly changed. Memory is not a museum. It is a campfire story told by meat. So your baby amnesia is not a glitch at the edge of life. It is a clue about all memory. You are not a perfect record of what happened. You are the current draft. Most of your first chapter is missing, yet it still helped write every chapter after it. So the next time you see a baby staring at a ceiling fan, remember this. A whole universe may be happening behind those eyes, but the person who owns those eyes will probably never visit it again. You began as someone you cannot remember, and that forgotten stranger built you. And that connects to something even stranger. Why do your dreams feel real, then vanish the moment you wake up? If this scratched the right part of your brain, subscribe to Mind Itch, a new question every single day.